Everybody ready? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and call to order the Electric and Cable Committee meeting for April 9th, 2019. And on the agenda, first off, we want to, I know Councilman Williams couldn't open his minutes, so he's going to give him a chance to kind of make sure that he doesn't see anything that is out of order before we call for approval of those.
We got one more box to make up, and LG&E is in the way all the time. And then they haven't gotten pad board for the transformer yet. So we can't pull wire. We're good.
Okay, so having all of us reviewed the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 3rd meeting.
So moved, Chairman.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second.
Second.
And we'll approve the minutes from the 3rd committee meeting. All right, next thing on the agenda, we'll do the electrical projects update and start with the update on the Barton substation. You guys take it
Okay,
away.
well, we've, 2 weeks ago, we started. Hamilton Power Line's been in, and they have gotten all the prep work done for the outage that we're going to have in May. So the 1st of May, Barton Substation goes out, and the models and everything says that we can handle it all on the full substation. So we're finishing up the switching that needs to be done. We'll get Jeff Mills and Eric and myself and we'll come up with a plan, get it all drawn up. But we already know what's going to happen. So once the station goes out, then we got to remove some of the stuff, and then KU's going to come in and redo the whole station. And they'll be down 6 to 8 weeks. And then it'll come back and we'll turn it back on at the voltage that it's at now and run till we finish all the conversion areas. So we'll be back to normal during the summertime peaks. And then probably sometime late August, maybe September, we'll start conversion. And that all depends on how everything flows. We can probably cut some of it off and go ahead and convert and relieve some of the pressure on having everything on one breaker. So.
And that will be, I guess, contingent upon fiscal year 19-20 budget, how much we can do in the September timeframe or whatever. What's in, okay.
So we've got all that into the budget that we figured for the next year on finishing up. They have started. We just got, Eric's worked on getting new door hangers done, so there's going to be outages. Everybody's going to suffer at least 2 outages. Some are going to be more as we go through and change transformers out. So we got to change it to a dual transformer so that when we come back, we can just flip the switch type thing and refuse. So we got to change the
Can I ask a
transformer.
question about that? You said everybody's going to suffer at least 2 outages?
At least 2 outages.
Can you give me a little more detail on that?
As in
I mean,
when or?
no, in other words, they're just going to be without power temporarily?
Yeah, so while we change it out, we're trying to keep them down into 4-hour increments. And so they got to change the pole sometimes. Sometimes it's just a transformer. So those ones just changing transformers, they won't be up but an hour. But
Those are
come Sep-
localized, so just a
Yeah,
handful
it's not
of
a widespread, but
Okay.
at some point in September, when we do the conversion, we're gonna break it out into different areas, but everybody on the south end of town will have an outage for up to 4 or 5 hours.
Okay, then, what about someone that has a medical issue where they're dependent upon electricity or something?
Well, you know, we went through this with Y2K and several other things, and we can't provide generators for everybody.
No, I'm just saying, so there'll be.
But we're gonna have enough notice, and that's what we
Okay, that's
want
what
to
I'm
talk
going.
about tonight a
Okay.
little bit, that we want to get it out on social media. We want it mentioned in the council meeting,
Okay,
so we'd like you to start doing that in the council meeting to make everybody aware that there is going to be, and we're going to have a map, and it's going to show areas that will be out, and we're going to door hanger everybody. They're going to have plenty of notice that they can make some arrangements
okay,
to try to take care of those.
okay.
So we may miss a door, or they just don't go and check their doors,
Sure, sure.
and they're gonna be mad. But hopefully we get enough information out through the paper and social media and.
So
all
through the
other-
map, through the outage map, I guess, we'll have the information available at that particular council meeting. We can, for that 2-week period or whatever.
Yes, we
Amounts.
can show you the areas that will be affected, and then at what times it can't. So weather dependent, some of these are in, a lot of this is in backyards. So we're trying to keep from tearing up yards so much to get into this. So we're working when it's wet, trying to work on the streets. When it dries up, if it ever dries up, more of how to get those in the backyard. We got, you know, there's areas that we may have to remove the fence. They've just got us boxed out. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric.
This will be, I meant to bring a physical copy, but this will be these are the door hangers that we had made, so it'll be, we're going to, with as much notice as we can give, you know, whether it's a small local outage, you know, hey, tomorrow we're changing out your pole, your transformer, so, this will be the date, the estimated time that it's out, and whether the work will be performed by the contractor or our own crew. So that, I just want to give you a copy of that door hanger, so, to see that, so that we have.
Is that what the 2 boxes are, Eric?
Yes, yeah, there'll be work to be performed by city's electric contractors, so they
You can
can.
identify who's gonna do it.
Right.
Okay. And do we have any kind of phone number or anything on there?
Right, we got the city hall number.
Okay.
And that's another thing is that, you know, we've been trying to be more communicative with the frontline staff.
Well, that's good.
So, you know, I've been working with Tracy and the CSR, so any day that, you know, we know we're gonna be, you know, working in that backyard, changing out that pole, you know, what customers will affect, or, you know, let them know, that way, you know, most people should know, you know, if the crew's trying to make contact with customers. Going forward, we'll be using these door hangers, but then if they still do call, the ladies will know what's going on.
But that addresses my concern, so I'm good.
Are there any contingency plans to say if, when when you shut down the station, and we're assuming that all the loads and the models are saying that the pool's transformer or pool substation is going to handle the loads? Are there contingencies there if they don't? Or is there something that we can switch to another substation, or can?
no, we're pretty much committed.
Okay.
So the first week of May, we'll de-energize the station ourselves, because we got to remove stuff in-house for KU. And once we do that, we're pretty much committed. If it should fail at that point, then we know we may have to put something back.
Okay.
But we have a couple different switching options for the pool substation. We're trying to keep the load off the city hall line, feeds the water plant. And so we got a breaker down there that doesn't have a whole lot on it. And everything says it'll handle, and so weather is another thing. If we get 90-degree days,
Right.
that's gonna hurt. But we've put in some bigger wire, and we've got some prep work done, got some switches, so we are pretty confident that it's gonna work.
Any more information on the Barton substation or questions? Okay, we'll move to the Edgewood conversion.
So this is all part of it. This is the conversion, and like I say, Hamilton has started. And they've worked out some holes on Dogwood and South Fifth Street, and they've just kind of moved around until it's been wet. And so once they're going to continue work, and then I met with the Housing Authority today, so I can get some money out of them for their part. Whatever they want to do, they can either not pay and then they're going to have to carry stock and kind of take care of themselves, or they can pay and we'll fix it. So we met with them today and they're supposed to give me word on that. And so there'll be some reimbursements from the Housing Authority on that work. And we're going to do that in-house to make it cheaper. So there's just a couple poles and 7 transformers and just some other work. And so I gave them a price on that. So that was about $25,000 to do our work. Then we're going to take care of all the library, all the pad-mounted transformers in-house, because the library is going to be an after-hours thing. It'll be cheaper for us after hours than the contractor. And then, so we'll probably, since the whole pole's got to be changed out, we may have everybody in. It wasn't scheduled to be changed out, and then we got over there and it's rotted, so it's going to be changed out. So we might have to have some contractors in there. If I can get a time with them, if they'll shut down for a day, then we'll do it during the day, which is I'm going to shoot for anyway. And but other than that, everything's good. Just going through lots of material, and all the material I thought I had, I don't have, and enough of it.
You're cleaning out your stock, your old
Yes.
stock? Okay. Nice.
No, I'll try to keep tracking. Now, 6 working days, they've changed out 5 poles. So they're moving right along, keeping us busy. So we're so far happy with the progress that we're making, and we'll keep asking them to give me weekly or bi-weekly updates on their crew costs and stuff, so that we can keep track of what those costs are. So I'll be dealing with their foreman here soon on those costs.
And they're not having to work any overtime or nothing? This is all straight?
They're working 4 10s right now, so they won't be around on Fridays. Well, they might this week because they got rained out Monday. So, but they're working 4 10s.
Anything else?
That was all I had.
The Money Tract and Bethlehem Complex?
One track, all the wire is pulled, all the conduits are in, all the boxes are in, and all but one box is made up. So,
Well, that's been a tough go there.
yes, we had some conduit, we had to redig everything down Bethlehem Lane. We don't know if it was a failure of the conduit, the road conduit we had, or if it was just the equipment. After we installed it, they run the heavy equipment over it and crushed it all, and we couldn't get any wire in our conduits. So we had to go back and redig it all and use stick conduit, and we got it mounted up and wouldn't let them back on with the equipment until we got wire pulled. So it went right in, and we got all the wire pulled. We're going to try to finish that box tomorrow. We've started our street lighting out there also, and then we'll be pulling wire across the front of Fairfield from our switchgear out to another box, and it'll be 500 MCM, so it's a lot bigger, and 600 amp stuff. So it kind of goes on, which after we do that section, then we've got an agreement with the Munnins that they'll reimburse us for some of the costs. So it's $10 a foot. So there's another couple 100 foot out there that we'll them for. And that's just for the added capacity, because they wanted it underground, and they haven't told them we have to put in such big wire to be able to accommodate everything. So we made that agreement before they even dug the first ditch. So that'll come back about Lincoln National Night Time. So it's going on. Fairfield Inn's got their temporary. Holiday Inn's got their temporary. I meet with them tomorrow on getting their primary up to the building. And then same way with Fairfield, there wasn't the primary in because they wanted the bigger transformer for construction purpose versus their little temporary.
That was my next question, and how soon are they going to need power? Fairfield only needs one.
We got it, other than Holiday Inn's ready. We did something because we didn't know, and so we're gonna take an outage out there before too much gets in there, and do some changes going across to the First Insurance Group. We put some fused elbows in there, and with the Holiday Inn going there, it's going to exceed the fuse size, and they don't make it big enough for us to use, so we're going to have to just do a hard elbow. So we'll have to change it out. That's the trouble when you do some things and then they do things later and you don't know about. But everything's going well, and as soon as Bethlehem gets there, we got a transformer ready to go.
As soon as we get a pad board
Yep.
and all that.
And it's all now.
Good deal. Okay, anything on Bethlehem Complex or Munning Tract? All right, on to the outage management system and phasing equipment.
So this is just to give you all an update. We purchased a phasing equipment that will help us model the system. We have an electric model now, but you know, in order for the outage management system to work properly, as the presenters will discuss, everything needs to be fully connected, every meter to every transformer, and the transformer has to know what phase it's on and how that phase is throughout the whole system. So in order to make sure that's accurate, we have this equipment, and you can train it to tell you on your system what's A, what's B, what's C, and then you go out with just like a hot stick and hook it on there and phase out the system, both three-phase and all the single-phase taps, to build out that connectivity so that the system can do the smarts and correlate the different meters in different areas. It'll know what phase they're on to do that math. So equipment's supposed to arrive here in the next few weeks. So we'll be out with a bucket truck and some iPad here pretty heavily for the next few months, getting all that data correlated, so that we can, then when we launch the outage management system, it'll operate and work just fine.
Great.
So we're doing all this with a man short, so.
Okay. Duly noted. All right. Is that it on the outage management?
That's all I had, just before we get to the demonstration.
Yes. Okay, net billing ordinance for customers with generation.
This was just an informational that way you all know about before it comes to the council. On March 26th, the governor signed Senate Bill 100, and what that does, it changed the definition for net metering for solar customers. So with the previous law, any solar customer that generated back into the electric grid was reimbursed on a one-for-one basis. So, if we're charging 10 cents a kilowatt hour, they get reimbursed for 10 cents a kilowatt hour for that generation. But now there is the Public Service Commission is going to establish a value of that solar, which will be less than retail value, just because that retail value has our fixed costs built into it on top of the cost of the actual power. So we're in the process of working on an ordinance that will mirror the bill. The bill isn't going to affect until January of next year. It really only affects 3 customers that we have that have solar power. So we're going to mirror it similar to that law. So just as informational, as we expect that ordinance to here in the next few weeks to a month, whenever we get that ordinance written, just to let y'all know kind of some background on it. And there's you can Senate Bill 100 is the name of it that is available to be looked at. And so there's those that have solar arrays, aren't the biggest fans of it because it will devalue. I think they put a stipulation that if a solar array was installed prior to the original net metering ordinance from like 10, or law from like 10 years ago, those are subject to 25-year furlough. But any new solar arrays that are deployed are subject to that less cost.
That's in Senate Bill 100?
Yes. So that ordinance will be coming to the council here just after we write it and get city attorney to approve it and all that. Just informational that was coming.
Okay.
And that's all I had on it.
Good. All right, we're getting close to our first demo time
Yeah, I
here,
don't want to
so,
cut the home store.
Cable internet projects updates.
I'll wrap all that together probably quicker. So Solid Run is, that construction went well. We spliced the fiber. Last time we talked, we were just got fiber on the poles, and it's all spliced. I think we signed up 15 or so customers, so it's doing pretty good. We're hoping that carries over to Plum Run. We're splicing fiber enclosures and things like that. We'll be door hanging probably maybe next few weeks, and then we'll be moving on to Bull Creek. That's the next one. I think most of the fiber's up on that, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up by summer. There's a couple of areas we're also looking at adjacent to where our current fiber is. There's some homes that we think we might be able to fit in this budget year. They're on the outer skirts of Johnson County, but serve to be the best build from what we have. So we're working on that, and we'll give you some more updates the next time we for the first, this is a subdivision across off of Filiatru. We are actually for the first time putting a fiber installation outside. Most of everything we've done so far has been serving directly from the head end. For the first time we can actually hang a node and serve GPON into that new subdivision. So this is kind of a little bit different from Millwood, which was our first whole fiber subdivision. This is kind of helps us to use the fibers that we have to those locations without having to build a whole set of route all the way to City Hall. That allows us to take one fiber, which is about 10 gig capacity, and then redistribute that. And that we hope will also help us later on when we develop further into Woodlawn Springs and that kind of area. So
What percentage of our new builds will be done in this manner? I mean, everything we have now is coming back to the head end, right? So
correct.
So what percentage will all of our new builds be with this technology?
Right. So for the most part, for all the nodes within the city limits, we have 12 to 13 fiber free and available. So we should be able to serve those directly from the head end. Areas outside that perimeter, we would have to install this outside OLT, what they call it. And then each one of those has the capacity to serve 1,500 customers. So that kind of gives us time to develop without having to rebuild back to City Hall. Yeah, and so that's we don't like actives. That's one of the things we're trying to get out of is having actives out in the field. They tend to be affected with weather and all these things and point of maintenance. But since these devices can serve multiple people,
And they have to be powered up
they have to be
individually,
powered up.
right?
Yeah. So they're susceptible to power outages and things like that. But the whole plant is not powered like coax. You just power this node, and it's all inactive from there to the homes. So it's got that benefit going for it. So that's kind of we've been toying with it in City Hall. Hopefully in the next month or so we'll be able to hang it and actually be able to start using it in that subdivision. Node 6 was for our pilot project for what we were talking about, Spring Hill, for all fiber that's served directly from City Hall. We've got the material. We kind of equipping ourselves to do most of the work ourselves. That way we kind of understand what it takes, what we like, what we don't like. Understand some of the technology itself, kind of wrestle with it. So we hopefully will start doing that towards the end of April and wrap that up before the end of the fiscal year. So that's kind of an optional, that area will have an option of having some sort of fiber to the home service if they choose to. We're still working on some rates to develop on that. We're kicking around the idea of just, $10 more. We're just doing a little more diligence in determining, if it'll cover all our costs if we wanted to do citywide. So that's kind of where we're at on those projects.
Is there a comparative value that you can look at from other services that would help you?
Yes, all that is included in this study, which I think we'll probably talk about later on. So we can get into that a little bit more.
Okay.
Some of those
Yeah,
things.
that's
Commercial fibers, it's also, it seems like we get one of those every week. We've been picking up commercial services across 245, Liberty Tax, Dollar One, and Dr. Hazard's dental office, and a couple of all along those, we've been able to provide them a more reliable fiber service for their business. Because a lot of their transactions are changing. They're doing cloud stuff, and record keeping, and all that stuff is becoming cloud-based, and so they continued link and interruption of service that is kind of affects their business heavy. So that's kind of the direction everybody's heading. They're happy that we're there and they can get some of this service. Great.
Anything else on your end, Helen, that you wanted to bring?
There's one other thing I wanted to, that's not on the agenda, that I wanted to mention, which is kind of important, was our storage need. I'll just briefly. We have, City Hall kind of, everything we have, our ordinances, our city maps, our billing software, all these things reside on a server farm. We call them virtual servers. And we migrated to a virtual server platform about 5-6 years ago because of the maintenance and cost of maintaining a server for each kind of application. And so, but along with separating the server, which is the operating computational piece, you also have to separate the storage piece. And so we got out of a lot of contracts and a lot of maintenance of these individual PCs and their routine change-outs by virtualizing all these servers. We had, I think, close to 35 or so different individual servers that we virtualized. Now we have about 50 of these servers virtualized, and all these individual servers, much like SharePoint that we all use as a server, Exchange, which is an email we use, Esri is another one, Billing has 3 or 4, some for taxes, and for all these different applications. And so it gets highly used. Roche is another one that uses a lot on historical preservation, pictures, and all these things. So we're running out of space basically on that. We have about a terabyte left. And the latest thing is flash-based, meaning it has no hard drives in it that spins. And so we put together a spec of what we want, what we think will serve the city for the next 4 or 5 years, and got some prices for what we think we are looking for. Some of those things now do compression, duplication, meaning it looks across several files and see if there's anything that's repeating and save you space. And so you don't have to buy as much space. The little space you have kind of is compression.
Was along the
Yes.
web? Yeah.
Yes. So I've got 2 or 3 parcels here. This is probably going to be a bid item. Most of these are, I can get into more detail at some point with you all. They're close to 100 grand or more. We're thinking to scale some of that back at some point, but you would see.
This is the compression software with the flash technology or the flash
Yes.
media, right?
Yes, so it's an appliance that
That's
has.
what the 100 grand you're talking
Yes,
about.
it's just basically a SAN. It's just, we have 2 of those, and we've operated those for 4.5 years. They're at a capacity. This one appliance comes with 20 terabytes. Currently, we're running 13 terabytes. The 20 terabytes with compression probably runs at 25, 30 terabytes of data, which that should cover, this should do it for a while longer. So, but we'll, as soon as we get all the quotes from everybody, we'll probably put a bid and then go from there. I just wanted to bring that up to your attention so you can expect it.
Okay, thank you.
And when will that be coming up?
Because we have.
This budget cycle?
Yes. We have 1 terabyte left, so we want to, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next fiscal budget electric items. Shoot back up. Say.
We'll have one that come and do it, but it doesn't really affect the budget for this year, but we got a contract that expired with Aspen Tree Service. So, how we get it out for bid and do the process, it'll probably be May before it comes to council. And there probably won't be any other bidding, but we'd love to do it.
Next fiscal year.
Yeah, we'll finish up this one, but it won't change anything. We got plenty of money in that, so you won't see any change. And then,
Mainly just focusing on the conversion projects. We're going to try and do as much of the south end between now and the end of the budget, but then roll over the other 3 areas and what's left at the south end into it. So that's kind of the main focus of the whole entire next budget. Is that no vehicle request. Not any really new software requests because we're going to be launching OMS this year. So mainly just the conversion projects and the construction involved in that is really our main focus for the entire budget.
manpower, and then just, we're growing. So we're burning up transformers and they'll have to be replaced for stock. We got the new city hall upgrades too, so that'll be in the budget.
You've got your manpower needs in this budget year, right? So that's your
Yes.
So you won't be asking for any additional on the next fiscal year?
No additional personnel. No.
All right. Next fiscal budget, cable internet items.
So we've
Covered
increased.
one already, or
Yeah, I'll kind of wrap all those together.
Yeah.
So on the construction project, we've kind of increased a lot of that to cover the rebuilding our coax plant with fiber. We hope to have a second or third pilot for next year. We think we can, beyond that, it's probably going to be a bigger project that we might fund, or we probably at some point accelerate that conversion of, within the city from a coax to a fiber-based, which is part of the recommendation of the roadmap. There's a lot of things to read in here. A lot of it is summarized for us on page 61. So Haynes did the study for us. We kind of had one, last one was maybe about 8 years ago. This is kind of takes us to 2023, this roadmap. So on the outside plant, there's the continued expansion of fiber to the home. As in, make that available in town. Continue to support the DOCSIS network, so people you're not forced to the fiber point. It's a transition that they can select. It's got in here an option to add a managed wireless service. We're noticing a lot of customers have outdated Wi-Fi routers. A lot of the speed issues they have get blamed on us because they're running on old technology.
Right.
So we think with there's some amount of revenue there, but there's an overall better experience for the customer that we can present.
And that would be city-owned equipment that would be leased to the customer? Okay.
Correct. So we currently lease the modems. This will be another device that either will do both. It has the ability to be remotely managed and be able to view issues that they might be experiencing. So it has the managed piece has come a long way, and I think it's a good way to serve the customers. On the video business, he talks about the different things that the way they're going. They're launching an IPTV platform, particularly an OTT, is the way to go to stay competitive. To make it, when cord cutters are basically looking for a cheaper streaming platform. A lot of the contracts we have are a little more flexible on an OTT or a streaming platform. So that gives us a little more flexibility in bundling and making offers that are more attractive and competitive. So those are the main items, the main takeaway. And also, one other recommendation is our speeds. We're kind of a little behind the curve. So we've got we typically every 2 years, we double everybody's speeds for the same price. I think that's probably in our future. Our rates for how we purchase bandwidth has gone down over time. That's just the natural trend of the more bandwidth you buy, the cheaper it gets. And so we can now extend that and offer that to the customers. We've upgraded our plant split nodes. They're large, and we continue to do that throughout the summer. That should help us add more speed without any problem.
As far as the 5-year strategic plan, does that include any attention towards any type of downtown wireless? Or there's some mention of Wi-Fi service. We kind of have some right now, so we always continue to expand that. There was discussion of putting more AMI project out in the county, which is kind of what started a lot of these different fiber projects and wireless projects. So we have, I think, maybe 15 different APs out around downtown.
The moment they don't get used as much, but as the software, we're hoping the tourism-based software gets
Right.
developed, a lot of that would be used to more.
Okay, that's what I was going for. I didn't see it specifically mentioned as anything that was in the 5-year plan, but we're still.
Yes, we're definitely still pursuing that. I think there's a lot of interest in it.
Right. All right. So, I guess that brings us to the demo portion.
Yes, I'd like to introduce John Moxley, John Fagan, and John, I forgot how you pronounce your last name. From Surveillance, who do an introduction while I call in to go to the meeting.
Let me give you Ilia's phone number. Easy way to do it, just call him directly.
And with the storage. I knew it.
Power just cut off. What happened?
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Should I go ahead and jump in?
Absolutely.
All
Please
right,
do.
so we've got 20 minutes, is that right? All right. Appreciate y'all letting us have an audience this evening. The topic is for outage management system, OMS. And this is something that would be used in addition to, on top of your existing SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition. Ilia, go ahead, next slide. As Eric mentioned, just got to remember one name for all of us, John. 3 Johns, and on the phone with us is Ilia, our sales engineer, who's a technical expert on this, will be running much of what we're going to look at. So what I wanted to do was take a brief look at what you should expect to get out of an OMS. Why should Bardstown be considering one? And then we're going to take a look at a couple of views of the OMS itself, and then jump back to a couple of points on conclusion, if that sounds good to you guys. All right, go ahead, please, Ilia. So as part of what you guys can expect or should expect, if you will, out of an OMS, and let me couch this as a question. So these are statements that we understand based on conversations we've had with Eric and some others on what you guys are looking for, but let me again make it a question and make sure that we're hitting the right points. So first off, we're looking for the ability for your customers, your electrical users, to have input into and visibility into an outage. Do City of Bardstown already know about the outage? Are you working on it? What's the estimated time for restoration? How big of an area is affected? It's sort of the UPS tracking package where you can look up your number and now you've got visibility as to when your package is arriving, providing that kind of visibility for your customers into what's going on with their outage and what you're working on right now. Also important to you guys is the ease of configuration. That is, we're going to come in and Surveillance going to come in and set up the initial OMS, but ongoing, we know you're going to make changes to it. You're going to be enhancing your electrical grid, adding field devices to it to be able to get restoration better, and so the OMS has to be able to be configured by you guys. Shouldn't have to call me back every time you want to add one of those devices or make a change. And then next, and this might be the most important aspect, is capitalizing on your existing surveillance SCADA system. And we'll get into more detail on why that's so important in a few moments. And then ultimately, really, the ultimate goal in this is reducing the outages. The job here is to keep lights on for the customers and to make the job of keeping those lights on for the customer easier for the engineering staff. That's what the OMS is all about. keep lights on for the customer. When we do have an outage, be able to understand what's affecting that outage, what we think the interrupting device is, and to analyze and see if we can throw some switches and get a partial restoration back to some of those customers that are out. That makes sense so far? Anything that would be important that we've missed? All right, go ahead, next slide, Ilya. So from a surveillance platform standpoint, the supervisory control and data acquisition, this is what you guys already have. The outage management system, again, the objective of an outage management system is to track and restore. The features in there are what you would expect. There's an interface into field equipment through the SCADA. There is the ability for a customer to call in, log the ticket, my power's out, consolidate those calls into a given case to define an outage area, then assign a priority to those outages. If I've got an ice storm and I've got multiple outages, who are my highest priority customers? Do I have a hospital affected? Do I have an individual home that has medical equipment? Is it one of my industrial customers? The point is that now I can intelligently dispatch the crews, and especially when a crew is going from one job to another job, what's the next highest priority? Where do I need to send them? Any questions on that regard? All right. Ilya, go ahead and switch over to the views. What we're going to show you first is what we call an internal dashboard. And so this is a dashboard that City of Bardstown yourself would use. Don't have to be in the control room of the dispatch center, as it were. You would have to have credentials and access to this. Not available to everybody, only those individuals that you allow the credentials. And so it's got some information on here that maybe we wouldn't want to share with the public, like some of our metrics and where our crews are, but internally you would want to see that. Go ahead, Ilya.
Can you guys see the internal dashboard?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. The internal dashboard, as John mentioned, is intended for internal users. So as you can see on the map over here, you can see the whole service territory of your area. You can track where your vehicles are. You can track where your outage cases are. The map itself is interactive, so you can zoom to any area, click on the outage pushpin, the outage case, and see what are the details for each specific outage case. And then here on the side, you can see some key high-level information, like total number of customers affected versus restored, how many feeders have been affected, what's the total lost power as a result of all the feeders and transformers that are currently out of power, how many calls are you getting in the system per hour, how many calls out of those are coming from your IVR system or from the web portal that we're going to show you next, or maybe saved by the dispatch team or the customer service representative. And of course, probably one of the important things is the reliability indices that the OMS system provides you with. So you can see the numbers on the safety, KD, KD for different periods of time, and understand how your system is performing over time and how you can improve the reliability indices, because improving the reliability indices means increasing the revenue for your business. So this is the internal dashboard. It's just to be shared with people internally. For the public out there, we do have an external customer outage portal where whenever your customers are experiencing a power outage, they can go to this public website, put their address here at the bottom, and see if they're part of a known outage. If they are, they can click on the outage case and see the details that you as the utility have left for them and what would be the estimated time of restoration. Otherwise, they can, if they're experiencing a power outage, but they cannot see the outage case on this map, they can click on the report an outage button and they'll be able to report an outage. So without the need for calling you or anything like that, they will be able to report an outage case from this map here. In terms of the information that you can provide, let's just zoom to one of the outage cases here. So this was a big outage case that took place over here that was partially restored by your team. So as you can see, we visually show what was the initially affected area and what is the area that is still to be restored. And when your customers click on the push pin, they can see these details like when this outage happened right here, how many customers were initially affected, what the remaining customers to be restored, what the cost, what the estimated time of restoration. And you can also include your own configurable messages over here. So there was a phone call by a car accident, Chris on site working on restoring the rest of the customers. You can also include some photos here, so if you would like to let your customers know why it's taking this long to have their power restored, you can add these photos over here. So this is the accident, the car hit the pole, it causes an outage, we need to replace the pole, we need to fix the line, things like that. That's why it's going to take 3 hours to get all of these done. If I go back to my outage map over here, the outage map, the initial purpose of the outage map is to show the active outage area. However, we can show scheduled outages here as well. So if I click on the list of scheduled outages, you'll see that the map will be filtered and there is a new scheduled outage that will take place on this specific date over here. So on this public-facing website, you can show any planned maintenance, so any scheduled outage cases in future to let your customers know that there will be an outage case on this specific date that is going to take 3 hours and it is due to a scheduled maintenance that you have planned in the field.
Great way for notifying folks just on the things y'all were discussing for upgrades that you've got coming up.
And we also have the option to show last 24 hours events. Basically filter this map by the last 24 hours. So for example, if you go at home and the power is on, but you see the clock on the stove blinking, you can go to this public website again and see the last 24 hours event, meaning you will be able to see if there was an existing outage in your area, which could make you want to throw your milk out of the fridge because the outage duration was 6 hours or something like that. So all of that information will be available for your customers.
I have one question about that.
So the outage.
Ilya?
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, is that okay?
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We're talking about this scheduled outage system being advantageous to the city on this work that we're currently looking at. Does that also have the capability, because not everyone is going to go to the city system and see if there's going to be an outage. They're only going to go to the city system if there is an outage or if there is a problem. So does this have the capability to, I mean, if our customers, if we have our customers' emails, can we notify them by email that there's going to be an outage, and then it shares a link, and then they go to this this system to see what the outage area would be?
Ilya?
So email is one of the options we are considering. It's not present today. The option that might be useful in this case is basically a text interface, so that we can send text messages to the customers. Email is not there, as I mentioned, but it's an option that we are definitely considering.
And the texting notification also is in place for any outages that are occurring now and the restoration. So power's out in your area, power's back on in your area.
Can they talk back to it? Can the customers send text?
I don't think so. Ilya, did you hear that question?
No, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, is the text one direction, or can you communicate back and forth?
So we do have the option to basically be able to report an outage case, to report an outage by texting to the text interface. So we can take an outage notification from a text message as well.
One other thing on the outage detection. So our system, our current system, and I'm assuming that the data, the outage data is gathered via the smart meter system over our line, correct? So,
That's one of several ways it can come in.
so in order to give customer data on how many customers are affected in an area, but that's how you achieve that, correct? Is that via the smart meter?
So that's part of it. Part of what we will do is, within a given area,
You know how many
I could get a notification by any one of a number of means, phone call. And if I get a phone call, then that's considered an unverified outage. So, not that we don't trust a person, but their circuit breaker inside the home could be tripped. So at that point, then I could use the system to ping the meter and verify. If I get multiple pings, either from a phone call or, more to your point, from the AMI meters, from the smart meters, then what the system is going to do, and this is one of the real big advantages, is not just say who's out, but let's say, okay, what do all these places have in common? What do we expect the interrupting device to be, and what area covers that interrupting device? It could be that for whatever reason, there were some meters that didn't send us a last gasp, I'm going out. But by correlating what's out there and what's in common, I can determine an interrupting device and then determine what the area that should be out based on that interrupting device.
Gotcha. Okay, so this software, we are currently capable of communicating 100% with our AMI?
That's a question. This is, can they talk API with the AMI device templates? And
So the short answer is yes. Usually that is done via multi-speak as opposed to an API, but yes. And y'all are using the Tantalus, right?
yes.
They've got multi-speak. It's a very common system that we interface to.
So the initial capital investment by the city would be minimal then? I mean, to adapt to this software system or to talk to this
Is
system?
there integration costs between?
That aspect of it, yeah. The being able to connect to the Tantalus AMI system would not be a big piece of the whole project.
Additionally, too, the present system that you have, your SCADA portion of that, which is at the substation level, if a breaker drops out there, it's going to say, hey, I dropped it, so all of these couple hundred circuits or what, or each customers or whatever are going to be affected by that.
It's safe to assume that they're all out, so you count them in as your system.
Right.
Right.
I said, I was one of the things, actually two things. The vehicles, I mean, I know that's noted as a big part of the system is that you can track your vehicles and where they are. Is that something that we have to upgrade in the city also as far as a GPS interface for our vehicles in order to know where they are, or we just kind of rely on radio data right now, right?
Yes. I mean, there's I don't know, is it a special software, or is it, they have iPads and things like that in the vehicle that deal with that maps? I don't know if it's
I mean, in order to show up on the map, I'm saying that in order to interface with the surveillance software, we have to have that information via a GPS or a...
You can do it one of two ways. So I don't think you guys have an automatic vehicle location system now. On AVL, you don't? Okay, don't have to have one. And the crews, as a part of what they would normally do, report back in where they are. Today, they probably do it on a radio. Hey, I've arrived at the site of the crash. I'm getting ready to start replacing this pole. And so when that report comes in, that can be entered into the system, and then I can know where a crew is.
And I think that to me, as a customer, and I'm looking at this system, and I know that, you know, our neighbor Salt River has a similar system that you can go online and you can look, and it is something that you can actually see where there's a crew there on site.
Yep.
Now, that would be big to our customers, I think, to show that there's a crew on site and somebody's working there. So that's data that we would enter on our end if they've been dispatched.
Is a better way to do that without a full-blown automatic vehicle location, AVL. What is a better way to do that, and Ilya is going to show you this in just a moment, is to your question earlier, they're carrying an iPad, then they've actually got access to the system. And so this is case number 1, 2, 3, 4. It was the highest priority. The crew is dispatched there. They pull up, they enter, I'm on site. It shows up on the system, that information is pushed to the public portal. He analyzes the situation, understands what it's going to take, estimated time of restoration, 3 hours. That gets updated on the system, pushed to the public portal. I'm now done, crew's leaving the site, restoration is complete, that's updated in the system, pushed to the public portal.
So we don't need to invest in an AVP system for our vehicles. We could do it via the iPads.
Now, you won't see where they are in between sites,
Right.
but yeah, a crew arrives on site,
Puts
puts
it in on the map.
Right.
Could you use the GPS from the iPad and actually track the iPad and have that show real time on the screen?
Not without so the automatic locating capability is not a part of the OMS. Just like the smart meter functionality is not a part of the OMS, but we interface to it to pull data from it. So there's a separate package that has that locating. They probably can use the iPad, but that's not within the OMS. We simply access that from the other system.
That might be a cheap way for work, but
Should we take a second and show you what that crew iPad interface looks like?
Sure.
Go ahead, please, Ilya.
Okay, so for the field crew, I configured the screen here to show the size of the screen of an actual iPad. So I would like to show you how it would look like on an actual iPad. That's why my screen is actually smaller. So your field crew will have access to different outage cases, different jobs that are assigned to them, or maybe if it's a supervisory account, then the account will have access to all the outage cases and all the jobs. Service and emergency tickets for any work that they need to do out there in the field, which does not necessarily involve a power outage, as well as to report any damages. So whenever there is a specific damage that needs to be addressed in the field, they can take pictures from the site and create this damage report that they can upload to the control room. In terms of, back to John's point, in terms of updating the cases, they will be able to open any of the outage cases. As they click, the system will zoom to the area. And now let's say this is an investigation that needs to take place because it's an unverified outage case. Once they go on site, they'll be able to specify the cause. They'll be able to specify the estimated time of restoration, information like that. So all of that will be available for the field crew as well. In terms of the jobs, basically they will be able to track all the progress over here. So whenever the job gets assigned to a crew from the dispatch will have this flag check. But then when the field crew actually sees the job, they will acknowledge it. If they need to stop at the shop to pick up some materials, they can confirm when they're at the shop. Then when they arrive on site, and when the work is completed and job is closed. All of this information is exchanged in real time with the control room. And that means keeping everyone on the same page. The control room, the field crew, the internal dashboard, and the external dashboard, all of this information is updated throughout the whole system. And depending on the different use cases and the different policies that you may have in place, you may decide to show different information to your field crew. So your field crew may be able to see the meters and transformers as well for pinging purposes. So they'll be able to see all the meters, click on the meter and ping to confirm the restoration. Or maybe when you send them to check a fuse, whenever the fuse is blown, they can click on the fuse and confirm whether it's open or closed, and this will verify the outage case. With all of this is based on user rights, so depending on your internal policy and how you would like to manage the things between the control and the field crew, all of these options are part of the user rights that will be associated to each and every member of your field crew. So based on their user rights, they may or may not be able to do these different things.
Ilya, if you would, bounce back to the slides for a moment. And while he's doing that, any other questions? As I think through kind of the simplest way to explain OMS and what it can do, I relate it back to navigating in your car on the phone. If you use Waze or Google Maps, and if you want to go from here to Louisville, you go out and get on 75, right? 65, thank you. Get out on 65 and go north. Right, let's say there's a horrible crash and the entire northbound side is shut down. Well, the point of having the navigation on the phone is to find your way around it. And that's what you guys have been doing with the network infrastructure that you've been putting in place. If there were no secondary roads at all, you wouldn't have a choice. You'd have to sit there on 65 and wait till it cleared up. So with the network improvements that you guys have been putting in place, parallel lines, switches between them, those kind of things, that's in essence built you a path so that you can restore areas that lose power. And so that's step one. That's what you guys have already been doing. Step two now is the OMS system that shows you, okay, here's a way around this traffic snarl. Here's a way to restore some of the people that you've gotten lost. Now, without any level of automation, then what that would mean is, hey, go get in a pickup truck and run out there and get your fiberglass pole and start throwing switches. Not very effective. And here's the key difference that you're going to see between surveillance and other options. Go ahead, Elliot, build this one out. So you guys have got SCADA today. What SCADA can do is replace the guy with a pickup truck and the fiberglass pole because you've got that already in place. You can see those switches in your SCADA system. You can click on open and close and affect change out on your network. And so because it's an integrated system, go ahead one more, Ilya. Because it's an integrated system, then when the OMS identifies the crash on 65, not only can I figure out what the path is around it, I can allow you to do that instantly on screen without having to send anybody out there. And this is a key difference. So if what you want to do is just understand what the problem is, pick anybody's OMS. Pick the one with the prettiest colors. If what you want to do is solve the problem, surveillance is the only one that has an integrated solution that you've already got the base of it in SCADA already in place. Go ahead one more, please, Ilya. So what we've shown you is we go beyond just identifying the problem, who's out, but give you the tools and the ability to restore it. And we've got mechanisms in place from a platform standpoint to even go beyond OMS when you're ready for it. As an interesting, not sidebar, but note of surveillance ability to deliver for our customers, we've got 98.6% of our customers still with us, still on support. And if we're not continuing to add value, those people aren't going to stay on support. So that's our customer retention. And the platform approach eliminates the need to have interfaces. These aren't different packages, SCADA and OMS, that we acquired and put in a room and said, you guys play nice together. They're all organically built on the same database. The screens that you guys are already used to using in SCADA for configuration, same screen, same configuration tools you use for OMS. Any questions? Did I miss anything? Okay.
One more question.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually two-part, but Are there any, what's the reoccurring costs with this system? In other words, we buy this system and then what are the licensing fees down the road? What are upgrade costs? What are, because that's something that's going to happen
Sure, great question.
periodically.
So the licenses, just like with your SCADA, the licenses are a one-time cost. Then ongoing, at your choice, whether you want to or not, you can have a support package. And certainly recommended. The support package provides access to help desk, email, online, phone calls, whatever you need help with, and right to all future upgrades. So for the software itself, one-time purchase, and then ongoing support if you choose to take it.
So there's no reoccurring fee, software fee to maintain support?
That's correct. Not a subscription, one-time license.
But there's integration and conversion, a couple other things we need as well, right? Our model doesn't transform to this as it stands, am I right?
Are you talking about your mapping model, your GIS model?
Right, our loads, all our loading and mapping is based on a different model. So we'd have to go through a conversion to get to the platform we're talking about, automatics, managing switches and things like that. You're talking a controlled environment.
So your GIS data now is Esri-based, correct?
But he's mainly talking about the MillSoft model and the bringing the MillSoft model into the surveillance platform.
And the MillSoft model is Esri-based,
It's standalone.
so it's not Esri-based.
Right.
And you've already been through a conversion to make it Esri-based?
We did an export and as a shape file into Esri just as a layer.
Then we can import that directly. And so getting the data in is pretty straightforward. And we were reviewing this with Eric earlier, looking at the cleanliness of the data is, or can be, a bit of work on the front end, because within your GIS data, it's entirely feasible and appropriate to draw things that are represented correctly but are not electrically correct. And for this model to actually look at this and say, okay, open switches and transfer load, it's got to be electrically correct. And so on that first GIS import, there's usually it's not an import error, it's just data that's not electrically correct. Got to spend some time cleaning that up. Once that's done, then additional imports are just incremental imports, not the full model, just what's been changed. And you only run that import according to how often you're making the changes. So if you make a change every week, import every week. If you don't make a change but once a month, do the import once a month. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right.
We're a dumb system, so we're not gonna have to worry about a lot of that.
All right. What else can I go over for y'all?
I've covered all my questions I had.
All right. Again, appreciate the audience.
Thank you, Tom.
Good luck with it. Thanks, Elliot.
Appreciate it.
I noticed a side note, when they're showing a picture of the car with the, running into the pole, I thought, well, that was pretty neat, except if I happened to be the customer that brought that up and looked and said, hey, wait a minute, that's my car, and my daughter was just coming back from the mall with it.
True. So Mayhem is out there, and that's what I always wondered about. So we're giving all the information for, they have that Allstate commercial, and they got that ring out there, and it says, what are you doing? I'm breaking into your car. Wait. So are we providing a portal for thieves to?
And that's a valid concern, and a number of utilities actually restrict the information that's available specifically for that. And I don't want to say they dummy down the system, but they may not be as precise on the polygon shape, so the criminals can't say, oh, okay, I know who's out. Their alarm system's obviously defeated.
Yes.
And what gets shown and what gets restricted is entirely in your control. That's up to you guys to decide how to use it. One of the differences, for instance, on the internal portal or the mobile crew that he would have on his tablet is individual customer addresses and names. Those we do not make available on the public portal. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think there was next one on there. If not, I've got one. I've got one.
Next guy up.
Just hands up the back.
Yes, if you look over here.
Yes.
That's what I couldn't do.
Yeah, you can do my outfit or
Yeah, I did.
Something else to read.
It's pretty good stuff. I was just telling you, I went through a lot of it, and skimmed towards the end, but I was reading that on the.
10, 15 minutes over.
Yeah, there's a lot to read.
Oh, no worries.
I figured I'll probably talk about it some more.
I knew that.
One more read through. It's pretty detailed. Very
This is
detailed.
Brian Watson. He's with Millsoft, who is our current model provider. So that's, I'll let him.
See if I can get connected here. Okay. Is that better like here?
All right. Do we need a break or anything? You guys okay?
I'm
You guys
good.
good now? And I had till 10, I'm told. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate you guys. This is a beautiful, beautiful town. I don't know if you know anybody at Salt River. We do their oil mess. So we have a lot of people in the area, and we're just pleased to work with you guys already with what y'all do. It's a lot. OMS is a lot. You've probably seen set through other vendors and all this kind of stuff. So I appreciate the time. So what I want to do is just take 20 minutes and kind of show you guys a little bit of what we do, and I'm not going to show every nook and cranny, and I could always come back and do it on my step, but I'd be proud to. Matter of fact, we met a little bit today, and I showed up our mobile product, but I know your guys' time is valuable, so I just want to kind of go through a little bit and kind of show you some screens, talk about what we do. Are you guys familiar with Millsoft at all? Anybody heard of us? We've been around a long time. Just to give you an idea, let me get this thing started here. So we're kind of an industry standard in OMS, engineering operations. We've been around since 1989, service about 1,100 utilities. So if it's a connectivity model related option, that's going to be us. So the great thing about what we do is we're not, meter centric, not device centric. We actually have your entire model from line section to the devices to. Because in reality, it's not a device going down, it's a tree going through a piece of primary. And what you thought was happening is not actually happening once you get out to the field, those kind of things. So we're going to have the entire model from all the line section things, everything tied together properly. And we have those kind of solutions at this many utilities. Our corporate offices are in Abilene, Texas, and Pensacola, Florida. I'm actually from Cincinnati, but I live in the Atlanta area. So I'm now a proud server of y'all's account. So I was glad to pick that back up. I had it a long time ago. I don't remember coming up here. I've been to Salt River a few times here in town, but so I know Irvin Taylor's the guy that normally has been calling you guys and things. So, but I look forward to building a relationship here and visiting some more bourbon things. I went to Maker's Mark today. That was pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of this town. But the bad part, though, I knew I had this meeting, and at the end they had this. I didn't realize. I was just seeing how things were made. Everything, and they set like 6 glasses in front of me. Like, better not do that. There's this guy next to me. I gave him all my stuff too. So I'm gonna go back and take care of that one. But so the products that we do, so what we'd be looking at doing with you guys already is we already do some stuff. You guys already use Leidos. Keith Mullen, the engineer that's done a lot of work with you guys. He's a big Millsoft guy, and it'd help him out a lot. You guys being in that environment and having that model accurate and being able to send him models back and forth and all those kinds of things. We also have IVR, so that's our product. So the great thing about what we do is all of our stuff is tied together, integrated within one OMS solution, similar to the advantage probably Surveillance would have with you guys is you already do some SCADA work with them, and I'll talk to that in a minute because we integrate with them as well, where one benefit that we have though is our IVR is integrated with it. So we'll talk, there's more inherent features of that you guys may take advantage of. I'll show you here in a minute, but that's kind of the different products that we have. And things that I would care about if I was in y'all's shoes, right? So when outages happen, you know, a lot of times they're not going to call the IVR. They're going to, if they have a hot number, if they know one of y'all, they're calling you, I'm sure. You know, when's power going to be restored, those kind of things. You're as good as the company that stands behind you. That's right. So if, when the big, ice storm does come, those kinds of things, we want to be there to support you guys. So we are a true outage center. We have call centers in 2 different locations where we do all the outage work for the city of Nashville, Tennessee, for example. As far as all the calls coming in there, we have 24/7, 365, because outages happen at any time. That's one thing I would always ask is, where's my help? If something, if really rubber hits the road, would I need something, where are you guys at? So we have 24/7, 365 support. We go in storm mode before every ice storm. So when weather's about to hit, we had some weird weather. Actually, I live in Georgia. We had a Category 2 hurricane by the time it hit middle Georgia, where I live. So strange devastation down there. But before that, we would dial up your system, make sure all the tables are optimized, make sure everything's good. There's tests that we run. There's things that we do proactively as part of your support agreement to make sure that you guys are taken care of, that the system's going to work optimally, all those kind of things. So that's one thing that we have there. You have a lot of backup with us. And one of the things I would ask, and you may have heard about us, is our support is just an industry standard as well. There's no support contracts with us. We charge 20% annually maintenance and support, and that's to build the product, and you own it for life. All the future upgrades, all those kind of things you just get, but you also get the support, 24/7, 365 support that you need. So it's not, and that's calling and getting a live person, those kinds of things. So we don't log tickets or do anything like that. And the big thing for us is, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry because I know you run late, but the big thing for us is that we're going to be able to use your connectivity network. So once that's built, and actually you guys have it built, I saw that today. The great thing is we know this device serves these 26 people down the line. We know what phase they're on. Well, we're working on phase, right? I think there's some phase things there. We know who they are. We know where they're at, all those kinds of things. So there's a lot we can do with that in predictions, in tying an AMI system, Tantalus, to those systems. For example, city of Morristown, they were the first Tantalus user to work with us. They got a grant with us, and they were our first customer. I think they were the first ones in the country to do low voltage with AMI. So we showed low voltage actually in our dispatch on this product. Morristown, actually in Tennessee, was the one that started that whole thing. So that's things I just don't know if you knew you could do with it. But everything's tied together here. As far as the model goes,
You're saying low voltage from other customers' home?
Mm-hmm. It can show not just outages, but actually low voltage, and give alarms for those as well. So there's one of the things, as you look at companies, one of the things you want to look at is, have you guys heard of Multispeak? It's like multispeak.org. When you look out there, you'll see all the integration pieces, and those are the people that are serious about live integrations between systems and sharing data and all those kind of things. And you'll see a lot of confusing stuff, 4.1, 0.7, all the different versions and everything, but you'll see Tantalus to MillSoft, Surveillance to MillSoft, NIC to MillSoft, whatever company you're talking about, there's just we're very, very serious, and you being able to utilize your data. So that's one of the big things I wanted to show you about is utilizing that model, but then also being able to share the data. So getting into outage a little bit, some of the things we're going to be able to do, and I don't know, you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Good. So we have a detailed model of your system, and it's designed, our software is designed to work for an engineer, to work for a GIS person, if you had our GIS extension in Esri, if you had, of course, our outage. What can happen with our system, I just want to say this because it's possible. What can happen in our system if you had our GIS extension and if you had our OMS, and you already use EA, is you can make a change to your model wherever, and it automatically updates everything else. So everything is always in sync, so you don't have to create a model and export it into a GIS, and then export it back out into an OMS when there's not outages going on, and all those kinds of things. It's a live, living, breathing system.
If you throw a switch, that model will update and change, let you know what your new load is at different locations.
Yeah, so that's multiple part question, because in OMS you may do a temporary operation that you wouldn't want everybody to know because it only lasts for a few hours, right? So then you wouldn't have to, but theoretically, if you want to make a change in one and propose that it's the model, the network version of that, it'll update everything. So, kind of a couple things going on here. We do have a mobile product as well. So one of the questions that Eric and I talked about this morning was, we did a demo for him at some point, my predecessor did, and at some point, the question was, well, we don't have 24/7 dispatch, what do we do at night, right? So this just works on an iPad. So you could load this on an iPad, and if you're the on-call person, just hand them an iPad or hand a foreign crew a version of it, and they can actually go out and assign outages to somebody else, assign it to themselves. Maybe they're having dinner with their family, it's got a couple outages, not a big deal. But rather than have to go home, go into the office, all these kind of things, these are things that people can work with just an iPad from home and then keep the system going. So, because at the end of the month, you're going to want to see, the number of customers out by hour for this date frame, all these reports that you guys probably care about, to measure how efficient and reliable your network is. So we do have fault location tools, and those kinds of things. A lot of that stuff could come in from SCADA. So if you get a SCADA event come in from surveillance, it actually can feed us. The integration that we have with them, the live integration is, if you can envision a screen with your model on it, and you got a screen with their data on it, next to it, all that stuff, you can see what's going on. But all of a sudden, this open device creates a prediction, and this many people are verified out. So it all happens live, so it can go off and then back on. You're going to be able to see that in our dispatch OMS system.
Is there a cost to integrating with that?
Not on our side. These integrations for us, well, the SCADA side, I believe there is a small cost for that, just the configuration, just a one-time cost for that. But it's real low, like $3,500, I want to say, something like that, I believe.
So fault location is an area, not the location of the fault.
It's the location of the fault.
It could be an area.
It could, well, it depends on how accurate your model is. It can be based on see, remember, we're an engineering system, so if you have the tolerance set right, and if you have the impedance set right, the length of wire is close, those kind of things, it can get really, really close to help them. And that's the great thing about this. With our engineering and this data that they're giving us, both AMI, SCADA, we'll talk about CIS and other things later, all this information coming to us and the engineering model, you're going to be able to say, based on these branches, we know everybody that's called is on A phase. We know the impedances, we know the tolerance that we've set for that fault location tool. It's either going to be up this tap right here, or it maybe went past that tap and it's about right here. And these are, you could call them areas, but you're going to get close. And then depending on how accurate your model is, you get real close. It definitely helps rather than ride the line out, for sure.
So we just had one here not long ago, and Eric was able to get the fault through it. But it wasn't where it was at.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had the old fault indicators, and if you follow them out, it was always very easy to look.
Yeah. Yeah, and we could look at that. We could look at why that happened. There's lots of reasons, and we talked about that today too. Whatever y'all do when you get an OMS system, you'll find problems on your system, right? Because it predicted this. Why did it break? Well, there's a fuse in the field that's not in the model. All these things. Well, the good thing about it, over time, your model's going to get better and better and better if you have a good prediction system for that. So
I understand with the metering, so we found our deficiencies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. But it does, the other big thing is we have lots of tools within just the core package. You have the ability for an internal and external map. This is just a sample, and you could probably go to Salt River's website, for example. I bet they have one on their webpage. That's ours. So there's an internal one where it gives you lots of information about just inherently what's going on. People can see what's going on with the outage. But there's also a public-facing one, and you can choose different security for the polygons, or if you want, sometimes some people don't want them to see that a crew's out. You can put a hard hat out there if there's a crew's been assigned, all that stuff. That's all stuff for y'all to talk about. Some people don't want customers to go bug them. Hey, come work on my next, come on. That kind of stuff. But,
They know it's all anyway.
yeah, well, that's something. They're going to come find you anyway, right? But so our system includes all the web browsers, internal and external. It also, we can tie this stuff, you guys already looking at IVR too, we can actually do texting with this system, and it's two-way. So you can not just only a customer, once they're opted in, they can text out to like some number. You guys will have something kind of creative for you. You can text the word out and it'll log an outage, but also give them updates on the status. They can also type status. It'll tell them if something changes, it'll notify them. So it'll connect with them and say, you know, if you type in a new note, just text to speech, just type it into our dispatch system. You know, we're sorry for the inconvenience. It really may be days. You probably need to find a hotel. We are so sorry, but there's, as you know, there's a major ice storm going on, whatever. But it can actually communicate back and forth, and that's really, the big thing for us is our customers are becoming proactive rather than reactive to an outage. So it might be that, you know, you're at work and mother's gonna go pick up her daughter to go home, but she gets a message that, you know, on her text, she's not even home, she doesn't even know. It's the middle of winter. I'm sorry, but you've lost power. Like, oh, well, I guess, you know, I'll just pick up the baby and go to the mom's, and then she's got heat, right? So, I mean, she didn't have to call you, she didn't have to do anything. You let her know her house doesn't have power. So then she goes to grandma's, and about 7:30 she gets a text, you should have power now, we apologize for inconvenience, let us know if you do not. And if she says, no, I don't, but she's home, it'll create a secondary outage. So outages don't just happen the first time. We actually can go back and create secondary outages based on customer responses and those kind of things. So it's a pretty nice tool there.
About scheduled outages, as we had mentioned before, you have the ability of posting via email or via text.
Yeah, so we can email or text. We can do email or text notifications. That if
Call them out.
or call them. Yeah, all the above, really. And it could be a planned outage, might be, and it's as simple as, on our system, it's as simple as a right click to create, so a right click, since we know everybody down the line, we can just right click, it can build a campaign to go through the IVR and just call everybody that next Tuesday, we're going to be servicing this device, and it's going to take about 15 minutes. So, you know, you can text them or call them, because you guys probably have a pretty young, you probably have a good mix of people here, I would think, in Bardstown. But the younger hip people that probably communicate all texting and computer, and then some people that you have to call them, you know. Yeah. So,
I'm the call.
But the cool thing is, I'm somewhere in between. I'm starting to think I'm like my dad. I'm getting old. Like my son's a freshman at UGA. Don't hold that against me, but I went there too. But I can't reach him on the phone ever. But if I really want, I can text him and he'll answer me this second. It's just frustrating to me because it's like it takes going back and forth 10 minutes on text. Where we could have this done in 2 minutes on the phone. I'm sorry.
That's how they communicate.
Yeah, and they do.
That's talking to them.
I call it they don't communicate, but that's what I told you. Eventually, you're going to go on a date. You have to actually talk to that girl. You ain't going to just text her, right? I mean, anyway. But at least,
as long as I'm paying for your phone bill, you better answer your phone bill.
we're about to have that conversation this coming weekend. I'm paying a lot more than his phone bill, and he's not calling his mom.
That doesn't work.
That ain't working for us. But no, but we got lots of ways to reach out to your customers and those kinds of things, and internally. So this works internally too. So we got triggers in our system that if a key account goes out, loses power, and you want to be notified if you're servicing somebody and this key account, it's in your contract that they can't have downtime. They just, whatever it is, everybody has that stuff. Whoever wants to be notified on that, we can send out 3 triggers, 3 emails, 3 phone calls, 3 texts to the people that need to know that key account is out of power. Or if the priority service from your CIS, we can read those codes in. If there's somebody on oxygen, life support, all that kind of stuff, it can flag people. Or Eric, if you want to know, there's over 20 people out of power, whatever it is, we can send notifications that way as well. So I just want to show a couple screens, and I know we're a little bit over. You guys give me about 8, 9 more minutes, 10 minutes at the top. Just want you to see a couple of our screens. So, and again, I can come back anytime if we want to do more. If we want to get more in depth and do a full-on 2-hour demo, we can do that. But I just wanted to show some stuff. We can model, this is our dispatch screen. And we're different than everybody else because we're not device driven. We are device driven, but we're also primary driven. So we can work with devices, AMI, SCADA, all these things, but we're not a call management system and we're not a device management system. We're a true outage event system because in reality, the problem isn't the device that's being sent to us or the meter that's being sent to us. A tree went through a pizza conductor, right? So then, we can actually measure devices at that point. We can actually backfeed, do partial restorations with a right click, open, close, all that kind of stuff that you guys probably have seen with it, or maybe you've seen a windmill, or what maybe Lios have been doing with you guys or something. They use that same software. So that's, we can show your system by feet or just some different ways to look at the data. But we also tie to CIS, and this is critical as well. So when they call you, and they call you because they were cut off, or they cut off because they have an outage, it's a beautiful sunny day, or were they on the cutoff list, for example. That kind of integration is very needed because it saves a whole lot of time, because if someone says they're out of power, you don't want to roll a crew, I mean, you don't want to have to go to another paper stack and all that kind of stuff. This system will tell you, it'll say non-pay, flashes red. Not only that, with most of the companies that we integrate with, if they integrate well with us, which most of them do, is it'll show the balance. So we also will track the balance. So I'm sorry, you were cut off or not. It shows, I show you have a balance of 126.47. Can I transfer you into our customer service where you can make a payment to clear that up, those kinds of things. So, and it won't allow you to create an outage and a prediction and all that kind of stuff. So I mentioned this earlier, we're going to keep all your priority service accounts, all that stuff. It's going to be tied to that. So, and we have an engineering model, but we're going to, get the name, address. If you're hovering over those customers on there, it would give you a block and you choose what it displays: name, address, service, location, all that kind of stuff. So if they called in and they were part of an active outage, you're going to have, you can see, I don't know if you guys can't see, but that's a time right there. That's how long that person's been out of power. So once that first call happens, whether it be from SCADA, whether it be from AMI, whether it be through IVR, or they picked up the phone and called somebody and they entered that in, once that's entered, then if somebody calls and they're part of it, it might only be 2 people called, but due to where they were in the model, 288 people are out of power. So all of a sudden you get the third call, it's going to tell you how long they've been out of power. You're going to know what everything that's happened, if there's any notes. Do they have any notes for you? Because not every call is the same either. Sometimes they'll call you and they'll say things like, yeah, a transformer blew up on my backyard. I can see it, it's on fire, whatever. It may lead you to the source of what the problem is. That's a big deal. So that's not just a note. That's a note where I'm going to type in the note. I'm going to say, I'm going to hit dispatcher notification. It's going to notify the dispatcher that you need to watch this note because this could be the source of our issue. Those kinds of things. So likewise, you see the trucks on here and things. So we are tied to all kinds of AVL systems. So if you want to see, you can see the trucks drive to the outage. If you want to know, and we've been around a long time doing this, so we've had safety issues. Some people, it's not like Big Brother's watching them everywhere they go on the system. That AVL sells differently depending on the room, right? So some people, you walk over the back, watch everything they do, but what a lot of people will do is turn it on at night. So if you have one-man crews at night and those kind of things, it's kind of nice to know that they're not in trouble. We've had a few accidents and things that it's really helped get them to them quickly.
There's a question that came up earlier, was trying to use, if there was a mobile app and they got that turned on and they were using that, would it identify or help, track or lead breadcrumbs with, so if there's a situation like that, you know where the crew is.
Absolutely. So, you can have this, if you envision a dispatch map like this, our system up in a war room or whatever, you can actually see the crews driving around the system and where they're at and where they've been. All that. And the great thing is who's closest to where the outages you want to assign are. So it's kind of nice because you can say, Johnny's right, he's just down the street. I'm going to go ahead and assign him to this other outage. And that's such a blessing as a dispatcher because what's harder, and you can go ahead and assign people in the area, and then if they call you, which they don't have to, I got a mobile app I'm going to talk about in a second, but the great thing is you can relieve that from your dispatcher mind and go on and work other problems because there's the phone ring, there's all kinds of stuff going on. All Johnny has to do is see, he finished this, it's got like a little one and then a rubber bands to it, it'll keep up with where you want him to go, and he can see that and leave you alone.
So we don't have a dispatcher, and the dispatcher is me.
Okay.
And so everybody is calling me, and I don't get an opportunity to be able to talk with my fellas.
Yeah.
But I can assign from that.
Yep.
and be the dispatcher, and so I can continue
That's right.
with that. And then, so the other thing I like is, since everything will be addressed and phased and all that, when the guy calls in from Salt River and he's out of power at Woodlawn on Sunday night, and our call centers, it's out in Kansas, doesn't know where Woodlawn is, and then wakes us up with this phone call saying, they're out of power, they need to call Salt River.
Yeah.
Or KU or whatever. We get so many of them
Oh, I'm sure you do. You guys are
every
close.
week, and so that's what, so they would be a dispatch center for us.
Yeah.
So when the outage pops up, someone's watching, says, oh, it's here, and they're calling us and not
Exactly.
Kansas City.
Exactly. And just a couple screens. So AMI, you'll see that there's a table showing the one green, and means they have power, red they don't. And it's not displayed here, but you'll see, there they are. Once outages start happening, we will strategically ping them always. So you don't have to say you're gonna ping. So somebody calls, and then somebody else calls, and we think, well, the system's gonna think it's a B-phase fuse at the start of this tap. Before you know it, the system's automatically going, okay, just to test that behind that tap, I'm gonna go check on C-phase, because there's a 3-phase line there. Then I'm gonna come up here, down here. It'll strategically look for things it has a really good prediction by the time it automatically calls all this thing, starts we call it strategic pinging, but that happens automatically, so that you feel real good, the real crew, that it's gonna be in this area. SCADA, so we do tie it to Surveillant. They're actually one of our biggest integrations. We have lots of people that use SCADA and MuleSoft, and the advantage of that is we'll actually pull in all their SCADA points. You can see them right here, and this is the fault location tool that I was talking about, but you know, based on, and this actually was a recorded live demo showing lightning strikes, but it actually predicted the different places where it could be, and it was predicted right here. Actually predicted right here, and there's this big lightning strike. So usually it's pretty close where it's taking you. But we will be able to utilize your SCADA system. You got a top-notch SCADA system as well as our connectivity model, and read in a lot of the benefits of you guys having them on for SCADA. As far as it comes in automatically verified. If they give us an open, it's true. It's not an AMI false reporting of an outage. Is it an outage, or did we just lose power to a repeater or something in the field? So there's still connectivity issues with AMI. And that's really all I had. I just wanted to show a couple things. I don't know, I kind of rushed through that, but you guys have any questions or?
You pretty much answered all the questions that I had, and I was, going to ask you about the same questions that I asked the other group, but you've answered most of those already. What about licensing fees and reoccurring costs?
Yes, so that ours, we have an upfront cost, and then after that, it's 20% a year is our support. That's almost standard. So there's not an option for. I mean, you could technically not do support, but then you wouldn't get future versions of the product, which is the same as what a lot of people do. That's not what you want. So we have everybody, and the thing about it is you'll constantly see upgrades and enhancements and all those things, and
That part of the 20,
and it's all part of it.
That's part of the 20%
Yes, you'll get all
per year
that.
support cost?
That's correct.
What about, so upgrades and,
It's included.
okay.
Yeah, not saying that there's not a module or two that not everybody uses that you might want to add. Like one of them was, today we were looking at the mobile product, and what that is I alluded to it, but you could basically hand somebody on an iPad, do a lot of functionality with an iPad, and use our model and assign a crew and work outages and from the field. So maybe nobody calls 3 a.m. and the lineman's driving down the line and said, this is a problem. They might just right click on the map and create an outage themselves from the field.
What is the 20% based on? Is that based on your initial upfront cost?
Yeah, it's based on the retail price of the software.
Okay.
So the 200 calls from ISBN net for Woodlawn and all the other places will pay for it.
So if the calls, if we forward the calls, instead of going to electric outage, we forward those calls instead of ISBN to MuleSoft's call center, what would be the call charge or rate, or, during an outage, you can get lots of calls.
Oh, yeah. So that all depends on, so It's 5 cents, a connected call, I believe is what they do for that. But if you weigh it out, like, the great thing about that is you can right-size your system, so you're paying a low fee monthly to have that, but when that ice storm happens, you pay a higher fee, or you have more calls is what it is. But the great thing about that, like, both those systems will pay for themselves in one big event, typically. Like, I've had several people with a good outage system and an IVR system connected, because the thing about it is you want that customer experience to be good too. So for PR purposes, I'm sure you guys have all gotten beaten up over an ice storm or a major outage, and they just don't get it. Maybe they're on hold for 3 hours and all that, those kinds of things. But what's great about what we're doing is we're going to be able to notify them instantly of an outage. So within minutes, before they can pick up the phone and call us, we can text them. We know you're out of power. That stops the call. They don't then, because to them, they think, everybody thinks they live at the end of the line. They don't know about me. First thing they do is look at their neighbor, look across the street. If they're out of power, then they think, well, maybe if they're a big enough subdivision or something, they might figure, somebody's surely going to call. I don't have to call. But inevitably, you got the person that keeps opening their refrigerator, and everything's going bad, and if they shut it, it'd probably be okay. If they keep opening it, then calling in. Those kind of, that'll help calls. The proactive nature of that. And if we can, once they do get us, when it call forwards, it goes into a pooled center too. So we don't have busy signals when anybody in Nashville calls, for example. They're a big city. And the reason for that, there's a formula to, we've never hit capacity yet. We have a pooled set of lines past that dedicated lines that are right for you guys. So 90% of the time, you can expect this is what your monthly IVR calls are going to cost. But when the ice storm comes up, it's a little more expensive, but nobody got a busy signal. Or if they did, it would be incredibly rare, because it would be collision at your actual switch. And then if they call right back in, they're going to get right through. So it should help you guys a lot as far as customers.
And I think Nahom may have touched on this. One more question. We're about out of time, so we're going to adjourn here in a second. Along with reoccurring costs, package costs to interface to the other media, to interface to the SCADA system, to interface to AMI. Are those included in that upfront cost, or these packages or modules that we have to buy separately?
Yeah, and I don't know, have you guys already gotten pricing? And forgive me, I know Irvin, I'm picking you guys up after Irvin.
It was over a year ago.
Yeah, I need to take a look at what you got. We do sometimes, we've lowered in essence, it's included. What we've done though, is we've learned over time that not everybody utilizes all the different connections, right? Not everybody has an AMI, so we lowered our price. And then for every multi-speak integration that you needed, we charge $5,000. You may have had everything rolled in. If that's the number, we would honor that.
That would be studied up front, and then we would have those associated costs with.
Yes. Yeah, my goal was, if you guys are interested, is to kick this even further and then make sure you got up-to-date pricing, but it would be honoring what you guys have already looked at and done. And so there's a little bit of homework on my part, should we get to the next stage with you guys.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Okay, item 8 on our agenda would be next meeting date of July 9th, 2019. Is that still a good date? That's and it's same deal here would be 5 for city council meeting, right?
The one question would be, between, if the mayor releases his proposed budget, if you always want to meet in a special meeting to go over electric and cable department budgets specifically.
Okay.
We could, if y'all like to have a special meeting between now and then to do that, would be my only thought on something different in that schedule.
Okay. And that'll come up, I'm sure, in plenty of time before we Okay. Sounds good. All right, anybody have any other questions before I ask for an adjournment? And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, would that be a 5 o'clock meeting?
It would be. Yes, because it would be before the 7 o'clock.
Oh, this didn't say it, so I'll just confirm it.
It's all right.
It's all right. Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good job, guys.